Campers at Camp Corazón had a lot of independence in the afternoons, but in the mornings they had the chance to learn about topics that interested them. They could take a stars and moon class with Counselor Sydney, a plants of the forest class with Counselor Jed, or a cooking class with the camp's head chef, Mrs. Johnson, a woman who laughed while stirring and used phrases like a pinch of this and a sprinkle of that when referring to measurements. "Tell me, what's your favorite?" Mrs. Johnson asked as Troy kneaded dough for dinner that night. Etouffee or jambalaya? "Oh, jambalaya for sure," Troy said, his eyes lighting up. "The spicier, the better." "That's how I know you're from the South like me," Mrs. Johnson laughed back, turning to stir a huge pot of beans. Troy's family was from New Orleans, and they loved to cook. Jambalaya, gumbo, collard greens, shrimp and grits. Their motto was, if there's a reason to make them, there's a reason to eat them. Music and homemade meals. Those were the things that made his family tick, and that made his house a home, even if that home was now out in California. He moved out west a few years ago when his parents divorced and his dad got a new job in San Francisco. Troy grew up in the kitchen with his grandma. She never used a cookbook or measuring cups for that matter, just like Mrs. Johnson. Instead, she taught Troy how to prepare food by memory, tradition, and taste. The only thing his grandma loved more than cooking was the New Orleans football team. "Who dat?" she'd yell whenever they scored a touchdown as she served up fresh beignets, powdered sugar-coated pastries special to New Orleans. For Troy and his family, food was love and comfort. So hanging in the kitchen with Mrs. Johnson didn't feel like any kind of work at all. It felt like coming home. 4 months later, back in California, Troy was feeling way less at home or comfortable. "Why do you look like that?" Olivia said to Troy at school one day. It was just low enough for the principal not to hear it. Troy didn't like it. Troy had always been bigger than most other kids his age, but he never minded when he used to live in New Orleans. Everything there was about good food and good music, and he loved both. He didn't play sports, but he loved to move his body to the beat whenever his favorite songs played and enjoyed walking to school every day. No one seemed too concerned with the size of his body. They cared more about who he was. Here in California, though, it seemed like it was quite the opposite. Everyone liked to talk about how being kind was cool and how all bodies were beautiful, but it seemed like it was all for show. How your body looked mattered more than anything? This wasn't the first time someone had said something really mean right to his face about how he looked. Later that day, Troy sat in the exam room at Wellness Pediatrics for his yearly checkup. A nurse had already weighed him, taken his blood pressure, and had him change into a white gown with little blue dots all over it. Now he was sitting on the exam table, and even though they probably didn't mean for him to, he could hear his doctor and his dad talk about him in the hallway. "We need to draw labs to check for diabetes and high cholesterol," he heard Dr. Charles say. "Depending on the results of the labs, we'll decide if you need the help of a specialist, like a dietitian." All Troy could think was, is there something seriously wrong with me? Troy was scared. He hated needles, but he hated the thought of being sick even more. Lots of thoughts ran through his mind. Diabetes? High cholesterol? Dietitian? Did I do something wrong? Is my body bad? Soon, Dr. Charles and his dad walked back into the exam room. "How's it going at school?" Dr. Charles asked. That was not the question Troy was expecting. He didn't start with all the scary needle and lab stuff like he thought Dr. Charles would. All the worrisome emotions of the day, what to do about Olivia, the confusion he had about his dad, and Dr. Charles' hallway talk came pouring out of him at once. Troy's eyes filled with tears as he told Dr. Charles about how Olivia treated him earlier that day. Dr. Charles listened closely as Troy talked and gave him a warm smile. "Then I heard you talk with my dad just now," he said as he finished his story. "And now I think maybe Olivia was right. My body is a joke, and it is bad. Plus, you mentioned a dietitian. What's that? What does that mean? Diet? Does it mean I won't get to eat beignets anymore?" "Troy, keeping our bodies healthy is different for every single person," Dr. Charles explained. "You're doing a lot of amazing things right now to stay healthy. You're working hard in school, getting good sleep, keeping your skin healthy, moving your body, and being a great friend. The shape of your body and your size are not what makes someone healthy or unhealthy, or valuable or unvaluable. I'm so glad you told me about this." Dr. Charles pulled out a chair and sat down. "First things first, we have to address what Olivia said to you. What she did is wrong. How she treated you is called bullying. Bullying is when people act purposely mean toward others. Sometimes it can be just once, but sometimes it can be over and over again, which it sounds like has been happening to you. The most important thing for you to know is that you don't ever deserve to be talked to or laughed about that way." Troy looked down, his eyes filling with tears again, but this time out of relief. His dad sat next to him, scooting in close. "I'm very proud of you for letting us know what's going on at school, Troy," his dad said, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I know that wasn't easy to share." Dr. Charles nodded. You've already taken the most important step to stop bullying, which was to tell me and your dad about it today. The next thing we'll do is to make sure other adults at the school know what's going on so they can put a stop to what Olivia is doing. And finally, I'm going to give you and your dad some information on how to handle bullying when it happens, like speaking up when you feel safe to do so or going to get help from a trusted adult. Dr. Charles handed Troy a bullying pamphlet and walked him through it step by step. Now let's talk about your body. I want to make sure that every single patient I see is healthy, and that means checking different things for different kids, Dr. Charles explained. Since you live in a bigger body, I want to make sure that certain parts of your body are healthy. Your liver, your heart, and the way your body handles sugar. For someone who lives in a thinner body or a really short body, I'd have other labs I might want to check. It's very possible they'll be just fine, and if they are, we'll keep going with working on healthy nutrition and a movement plan that's unique to you, including a few beignets once in a while. If some of the labs come back showing your body is having a hard time handling sugar or that your liver or heart could be working too hard, we'll get help from a team of people who specialize in those things, Dr. Charles continued. And that might include a dietitian. Just like Dr. Charles told Troy, the size of your body does not define how healthy you are. You can be healthy or unhealthy at any size. For example, a really thin person or a person with a large body who hardly ever moved their body, who only slept 3 hours a night and who watched television shows all day wouldn't be considered very healthy. On the opposite end of the spectrum, a really thin person or a person with a large body who exercised so much that they injured themselves, slept all day, or never spent time having fun would also not be considered healthy. Healthy is not about size. It's about taking good care of yourself. And every body is different. Dr. Charles didn't mention body mass index or BMI to Troy, but you might hear people in the medical field talk about it, so we'll explain it here. BMI is a combination of your weight and height without any clothes or shoes on. It's a measurement that doctors use as a vital sign of your health. A vital sign is something doctors check, like your heartbeat or temperature, to see how your body is doing and if you're healthy. For example, blood pressure is a vital sign used to make sure that your heart is pumping blood with the right amount of strength. Pulse oximetry checks to make sure your body is getting enough oxygen to stay healthy and to do all the things that you love doing. Temperature measures how hot or cold our bodies are. Research has shown that BMI on its own doesn't give doctors a full picture of your health because it wasn't originally developed to measure kids who are of different races, sexes, and backgrounds. It was developed to measure white adult men. In fact, there are a lot of people who want to eliminate BMI completely as a vital sign of health because it has such troublesome roots in racism and sexism. Racism is when people are treated unfairly because of their skin color or background. Sexism is when people think that one sex is more important or more valuable than another sex. Another problem with BMI is that it has to be considered with all the other vital signs and with a number of other things, like your individual body type, because some people have more muscle than others from the exercises they do or just naturally. You have to consider your activity level and your nutrition habits because moving your body and eating plenty of nutrient-rich foods helps your body and your brain function to be top-notch. And you have to consider your mental health. Your brain and your body are tightly linked. A healthy brain is critical for your overall health. Troy and his dad talked more on their way home about the visit with Dr. Charles and about getting a plan in place to stop the bullying. You can tell me or ask me anything anytime, Troy, his dad said. Later that night, Troy's dad cut the vegetables into small squares before popping them into the pan on the stove. His hips swayed gently to the jazz music playing over their wireless speaker as he poured love into the food he created. Troy got back to the other campers in Mrs. Johnson's Camp Corazón cooking class 4 months ago. No one else in the class had seemed to care much about the food as they checked off all their mini chef tasks, chopping onions, peeling oranges, and plating cheese trays. They chatted with each other about the previous night's campfire ghost story and traded ideas for the next evening's talent show. But not Troy. He'd breathed in the feeling of home and smiled as he thought about how much food was part of his culture, a part of his family, and a part of who he was. Dad, he whispered, looking over at his father. Was what Dr. Charles said true? Which part, son? His father replied, turning toward him. The part about every body size can be healthy and everyone is different, and that all this testing and stuff doesn't mean I can't, enjoy being me? His dad nodded. Every last word of it. That's why we love Dr. Charles. And Troy, you being you is exactly why I love you so much. Troy took a deep breath and smiled at his dad. He yelled the New Orleans football chant as loud as he could, shaking his fist and feeling his whole body relax. Who dat? Remember, your body is one of a kind, and it deserves all the love and care and kindness in the world.